Hello, this is Wendy Thomas, and I am here to do my celebration speech. And the topic is video phones. The thing about video phones, they have made a really huge impact on the deaf community. You know, all the deaf people's lives. It just made an impact on their lives. The great thing about the video phones that they use is that they can connect through a video relay service, which is their way of communicating through an interpreter. And the good thing about that is that they have different companies, like there's Sorensen Video Relay Service, there's Purple, ZVRS, there's just multiple ones out there. And how that works is that they communicate through a sign language interpreter. It's a good way to have effective communication instead of them typing on TTY, which I'll get to that in a second. And the thing about the video phone is that they can communicate through the interpreter and make any kind of phone call, just the same as you. Whenever you make a phone call to make an appointment, or you call the store to see if they still have candy in stock, anything. If they need to call the police, or just anything that any kind of phone calls that you do, same thing applies to the video relay service. So it kind of gives them that communication access. Also, another good thing about the video phone, I guess, and also video relay service, is that if they're in the middle of a conversation and they're talking to an interpreter, and they feel that that interpreter is not matching their communication style, they have that option to switch interpreters. So that's a nice thing, because you're not just stuck with one interpreter and have to suck it up. So that's a good thing. They don't have to do that. Yeah, even if they felt like it, if they wanted to switch to a male interpreter, female, it doesn't matter. And with the video relay service and video phones, they're governed by the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission. And so they pretty much regulate, or they not regulate, but they allow the deaf and hard of hearing to communicate through the video relay service companies. Another good thing is that they're open 24 hours, so anytime that you need to make a phone call, it's there, just like we all have access to phones. Another great thing about the video relay service is that you could talk to, just say if you make a phone call and the person that you need to speak to speaks Spanish, you can ask that interpreter to transfer you to a Spanish interpreter, and then they can go from there. So they do have those two options. It's English or Spanish, that's been a great thing. Another thing with video relay service is 911. Okay, you can call 911 through the video relay service. Like used to back then, if there was an emergency, they couldn't just run to a payphone and try to call anybody. But now with technology, as long as they have a smartphone, they can call 911 from their smartphone device, instead of them having to track somebody down and make a phone call for them. So it's nice for them to be able to have that freedom to do their own thing, especially if it's an emergency. A lot of people don't realize that TTYs, which is that teletyping device, or TDD, which is the telecommunications device for the deaf, that's pretty much becoming obsolete. And there's a lot of people that don't realize that, because, I don't know, they still exist, but they're very rarely used. And just think of it as being an old-fashioned way to communicate. Remember back then when we had our pagers? Well, y'all are young, but you know, when we had our pagers instead of our cell phones. Mm-hmm. So it's not the same. So here you're on your pager, you have a pickup, call, whatever it is, and then same idea or concept for people with a TTY and a video phone. So instead of them having to type everything, they can just pick up the phone and call straight through an interpreter if they needed to. So yeah, technology's definitely changed the way of their communication styles and just everything. And again, it goes back to giving them a sense of freedom and equal access. They're able to communicate with their loved ones, which is always a bonus. And because, believe it or not, there was a lot of deaf people's family that do not know how to use sign language, and they don't know how to communicate with them. And even if they were to write back and forth, they get frustrated with each other because they don't really understand each other. And now that the video phones have come out for the video relay service, it gives them that opportunity to connect with their families again and to communicate with them. And it's just changed their world. It's still in the making of how it's impacting a lot of other people. And then another thing, whenever you're talking through the video phone to a video relay service, through an interpreter basically, is that whenever you're talking to the person, you're going to talk to that person directly, as if you're talking directly to them. You're not going to say, well, tell him that I said, or tell her that I said. Just say, hey, what are you doing today? How have you been? You know, just talk to them as if you're talking to the person, because you have to remember that the interpreter is interpreting everything that you're saying. So that kind of confuses the message when you have a deaf consumer calling and this person's saying, well, tell him that I said hello. So the interpreter's saying, tell him that I said hello. Deaf person's like, tell who? Me? You know, so that kind of throws things off.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, that's another thing that we have to continue to educate others about. I mean, it's a work in progress, because to some people this is fairly new. And how that works is the interpreter and the deaf consumer, they can see each other on TV screens. The interpreter has a headset where they can hear the hearing caller when they call out, and the deaf person is on the TV screen, and that's how they communicate, and that's where the interpretation goes about. It's even neat because even deaf children, you know, there's even kids out there. It's not just adults when we think deaf people. I mean, there's children that are as young as 3 or 4, and they're very great at their sign language skill. It just depends on how well if they're involved with the family, you know, the family's involved with that child, but sometimes their level is just so high to where they can actually make a phone call and call grandma and say hi. You know, so that's a pretty neat thing. So basically, having an effective way of communicating with others just really does make a difference, and that's why I chose to celebrate video phones. And that's
Okay.
it. Any questions?
Yes. So, who paid for the video phone service? Who paid for that?
See, the FCC, they're pretty much part of that. As far as for everybody,
Yes, sir.
actually, we all do. Everybody that pays for our phone bill, we all do. We're part of that service.
Okay.
So that's why they govern.
So the taxpayers pay for it actually?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Well, no, whoever you know, it's through your phone bill, your phone company.
That's still us taxpayers.
Well, true. That's